This is Sports Stuff with Jim and Muff. On the last day, or not the last day, the last recording in February.
Hip hip hooray.
Do you know what that means?
What, Alex?
We're 1 month closer to football.
We are 1 month closer to football?
One show closer to March Madness.
And 1 week closer to rolling the clocks forward and getting some daylight hours.
Very much good for the golfing crowd. Today is Tuesday, February 25th. We don't have much for the lead in here. As always, thanks to everybody interacting with our content on the socials, at Sports Jim Muff on Instagram and Twitter, Sports Stuff with Jim and Muff on Facebook, on YouTube. Subscribe, comment, rate, review, poke, like, tickle.
Ding, ding.
That was a bit
I
much,
just want to
Jim.
be like Muff and put the microphone like real close to my face like this.
It sounded slightly demonic.
Yeah, I don't think I sound demonic when I do it.
It got
do
very
I?
like...
We just lost every one of our loyal listeners. Thanks, gentlemen.
Well,
Don't blame me.
You are not in any way to blame for this one, Nate. You've done your part in trying to eliminate the additional and extra noise.
I'm coloring softly and remembering to hold down the spacebar when I want to talk.
Well, hold on the spacebar when you have demonic possessions of your mind. Before we get into this week's episode, rest in peace, Mike Lang, the beloved, revered Penguins broadcaster.
Sure.
Here.
R.I.P. T's and P's.
It's a hockey night in Pittsburgh.
He's a very iconic voice in Pittsburgh, Jim.
He is.
And many would say across the NHL, coined phrases such as "smiling like a butcher's dog." Or
You got to say it like him, though.
Nate, you take that one then.
Nope, you go first.
That's not one of the ones I remember exactly how he said it.
No, use your best Mike Lang impersonation then.
Oh, he was smiling like a butcher's dog.
Pretty much.
Also, scratch my back with a hacksaw.
Jim, we'll have to send you a video of all these clips here. They're pretty good.
I'm excited.
He beat him like a Reddit mule.
There was a... when my dad owned pickles, there was a big sign he got made, like a banner, and it said it's a hockey night in Pittsburgh. It's cool.
It was.
This is
All
going
right,
to be a Yinzer episode. I can feel it.
Oh, don't worry, Jim. You get yours here very shortly. Starting with the leadoff, we'd like to welcome the newest member of the Cheating Bastards franchise, Jim, to the fold. I'd like to have Jim talk about his cheating ways that his daughters called him out for. His wife filmed his daughters calling him out, and whenever I called to ask more about the situation, Jim's wife handed it to their oldest daughter for her to tell me again what had happened.
Yeah. So the girls listened to the podcast, and they heard me say, and I don't even remember saying it, but apparently I did, that I am a firm supporter of the rules. And the girls were very pissed off by this and wanted their time in the sun. Because they don't believe I follow the rules in board games against them. They believe I cheat. I don't think that's true. I think that's egregious.
It's a straight up question. Did you cheat?
Not that can be proven.
Did you cheat at board games, Jim?
At board games. We aren't asking about proof. We're saying, did you?
Did I cheat when?
This is a yes or no question. When you played your daughters in board games, most recently.
Anytime within the past 10 years.
Good point.
Have you cheated?
No.
In which board games are we speaking of?
I don't believe I have cheated. No.
You don't believe you have, or you haven't?
I don't believe I have.
What are the games that you're being accused of cheating in? Good question.
Oh, hell. There's this fish game where you put the fishing rod into the mouths of the fish as they're spinning around.
Yeah. So what's the accusation on that one?
That I may have prevented Tessa from getting her fish and may have physically blocked her from getting them.
I feel like that's you did or you didn't.
I
I think
mean,
there's a may or may not here. I think there's you did or you didn't. I agree with Alex.
there's
Did Tessa have
interpretation
direct
then.
access to her fish or not, sir?
There's interpretation, you know.
Did you order the code red?
This is a yes or no question.
I'm leaning towards no.
I can't wait to
Leaning
talk to
towards
Tessa
no.
about this.
Um,
I
then
mean, your
there's
children gave compelling evidence.
I. They would say I cheat. Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
It sounds like you're just calling them sore losers.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Did Tessa have unimpeded access to her fish?
I mean, she's small. The table's big.
What? So that makes
So
even
instead
more of
of
a
making,
reason.
what I'm picturing is Jim having the fish directly in front of him, where his arm is plenty long enough to reach to the center of the table, or even probably slightly farther. And poor Tessa is climbing on the table trying to get her fishing rod in the fish's mouth.
That might have happened.
So Jim,
Then
now a
there's
member of the Cheating Bastards.
I rest my
there's
case.
this there's a game called Moose Match Mayhem where you have to slap the card that you want. You know, I may be physically stronger than them and quicker. You know, they may get overpowered, but that's life, and it's a valuable lesson. You know,
When the Astros taught the rest of the MLB a valuable lesson, that's his life.
if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's the motto I live by.
All right.
So
Cheating
we're all
that
gonna
way
Shout
out
out,
Michigan.
shout out Michigan football.
This
buy
is-
Jim a Astros hat. Got it.
Connor Stallion's Astro themed hat in Jim's wardrobe.
A
In
Connor
the coming
Stallion's
months.
autographed Astros hat.
Ooh.
There's no proof that I cheated. There's proof that the others have cheated. And
Is
until
there-
there's proof, I don't know what you want me to say.
Connor Stallion's hasn't been punished yet, has he?
They're working on it.
They're working on it. Just
They're
like your
working
daughters
on
are
it.
working on the case here.
I'll be representing Tessa and Zadie in the case here, and I just want you to know that we are going to start.
I didn't even know they were going to call Muff. I think that was a betrayal of family trust.
You
Oh no, I called you first. You did not pick up. I called your wife, who had Zadie pick up, and then it was explained to me again what had happened.
I just think that's egregious. Egregious.
I mean, I didn't
betrayal of
record
family
your
trust
daughters.
was not giving your
Yeah.
daughters equal opportunity to catch the
I think
fish.
your wife betrayed you.
Oh, well, that's just a thing.
All right. Well, Jim maybe grudgingly joined the Cheating Bastards Club. He's still in denial. So we'll have to
Yeah, I'm
convene
not.
act of Congress to get this on the books.
Yeah,
We'll see
pretty
where it
much.
goes. All right. In other news, Canada defeated the United States in overtime of the Four Nations final. This game drew the largest hockey audience ever at 9.3 million. It peaked at 10.4 million total. I watched the first period of this game, and then I stopped watching. I actually just went to bed.
Yeah, I was gonna say I fell asleep between the second and third intermission, but these games were good. Like even the other countries that I didn't like overly, I don't want to say don't care about, but I when the games were on, I was intrigued by them. I think it's because you have the top talent from the country playing, so they're all going to be good teams. And the weird thing for me was rooting against Sidney Crosby because I spent the last however many years rooting for him, and then all of a sudden I'm like, they don't score.
Could you imagine being Mike Sullivan and coaching against him?
I know. I thought the same thing. I was like, this is hard for me as a fan, and I would also feel like it's hard for Sidney Crosby because he's like he knows my moves.
I watched the end.
Hmm.
I thought that was exciting. I think that if the political climate wasn't what it was, I don't know if that would be watched as much. Maybe a hot take.
I'm not going to say that didn't maybe contribute, but the game before, when the United States played Canada, definitely set the larger scene. Maybe bolstered a little bit by the political climate, but when you have 3 fights right off the drop of the first puck, and then a contentious game all the way through, a close game. The United States beating Canada. Canada's supposed to be, the best team. I think it just set up for a good final overall. And then you had, the booing of the Canadian national anthem. The United States beats them in Canada, and then I think everyone was anticipating what the beginning of this game was going to be. And I mean, it still delivered as a quality game, but I think for some of the casuals, I'm not gonna say I'm a casual in this case. I just didn't feel like staying up to watch the whole thing. Um, the casuals were maybe tuning in for the first 5 to 10 minutes and then tuning back out.
Yeah, that's a great summation of all that.
I feel like people generally like country representing. Like, think of the Olympics. Like, we watch sports that we would never watch if that, in the World Cup. Like, people that don't watch soccer will turn it on because, oh, America's playing. So I think you get that crowd of like cool sports, America.
Are you saying people in general, or are you saying there's a certain demographic that likes the country versus country?
I think there's
Like,
like people in general. Like, I can't think of like a specific demographic. Like, I mean, people in my family that really don't watch sports unless it's like Steelers football are like excited about the Olympics and they're watching sports that would be on all the time. I mean, they could watch a basketball game, or whatever, but because it's something they like, I feel like more invested in, you watch it. I thought it was a cool idea by the NHL. In
oh, I
hockey,
agree with that. I agree.
I would rather watch that than a normal All-Star game that means nothing. I think this carried that level of like country pride and stuff like that. So I thought it was cool. I liked it. I'd
I have a
watch it again.
hard time with the country versus country thing. It's
Why?
not, because typically America's really good. Like, hockey being the exclusionary, but I
Soccer,
just
the World
don't.
Cup. I mean,
Even basketball now, it's not dominated by the United
I
States.
just don't. I just can't get into it. Like, it's just not my.
you don't have
He's
to.
not
That's
American.
okay.
We get it.
It might be
He
too
likes Army and
macro
Navy,
for
but doesn't
me.
like America.
It might be too macro for me. The whole.
See, I think that what people like about it is the macro nature. They don't have to know all the intricacies and the ins and outs of everything. They just have to know, like, oh, this is America. These are good players. I probably recognize a couple names of the general, whatever. But it's like
I had a hard
soccer. I
time
mean,
with
like,
that.
my dad's never going to turn on a soccer game, but if the World Cup's on and America's playing, he's probably going to watch some of it.
So, like, I went to the All-Star soccer at the Crew Stadium thing. And maybe because I like rooting for the heel. Maybe that's the other thing. Like, I had a hard time rooting for like the American team because like the American team had Spaniards on the team. Like, but it doesn't. It seems very mixed to me. So I, I didn't get it. I'm sorry. It's not a thing for me. And maybe it is that patriotism thing. Maybe I am. I just don't buy into it. I don't know. It just didn't feel right.
Jim doesn't feel right.
Different strokes for different folks.
That's what I got from that. This is coming back in 2 years. I think 2026.
Why not next year?
It's like an every other year thing right now. So I'm not sure. I think it's going to be. I'm not sure how this is going to be, but I think they're kind of workshopping it. This also, you think about, puts an additional break into the NHL's calendar. So, and we also didn't have like Team Russia playing, which probably would have dominated overall. Just saying.
That's what happens when you do steroids. You don't get to play in the sandbox anymore.
Not sure if that's the reason why. The New York Yankees are amending their facial hair policy. Per a statement released by Hal Steinbrenner, and I quote, "We will be amending our expectations to allow our players and uniformed personnel to have well-groomed beards moving forward. It is the appropriate time to move beyond the familiar comfort of our former policy." Well, well, well. The Yankees are going to allow some well-groomed beards. Are we even going to notice this?
Oh, yeah.
I understand you will, Nate. Do we like this? Is this a good thing?
Yeah, because I think, believe it or not, you're going to have guys that don't want to go to a team because of that.
Do
I
we
mean, you
really
think?
think that's the truth?
That's
Oh,
basically the
just think
reasoning.
of some athletes right now. Like, how weird would they look if they had to go baby faced?
I mean, when the Yankees pay enough money,
I mean, I'm
I'm
just trying
sure
to
that.
think of someone right now. Like, could you imagine? I mean, I know it's not the same sport, but could you imagine like a James Harrison esque or a Brett Kiesel? Like, all of a sudden they go to this team for more money. It's like, oh, by the way, you got to go clean shaved.
I mean, Johnny Damon did it,
True.
so he had that persona and that look. I was heard some speculation that I don't think Juan Soto is any inspiration for this, but is there a free agent or somebody they may be targeting in the trade deadline this year
Paul
that
Skeens and
may
his
come
damn
into play?
mustache.
Well, they allowed mustaches as long as they were well-groomed mustaches, but now the beards are brand new.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see how this plays out, if there's going to be anybody. And do we think that Derek Jeter or other Yankees royalty had to sign off on this?
No, but I saw where they posted this and they said Steinbrenner talked to some current and former players and team personnel about it. Some were for it, some were against it, but I think it was like a coming of the times. Like, hey, it's an old tradition, but let's just get with the times. I guess I don't know. We'll see how many players do it. I think they said Aaron Judge already came out and said he's not growing facial hair.
See what goes down. And last in the leadoff, the United States sports betting industry posts a record $13.7 billion in revenue for the fiscal year 2024, up from 11.04 billion in 2023, as legal sports books took nearly $150 billion worth of bets, a 22.2% increase from 2023. Yikes. $13.7 billion.
Why do we keep betting knowing that that's like that to me tells me like I'm gonna lose, but I can't stop.
But that's why the state of Ohio wants to raise the taxes on gambling to 15% because they feel like they need more cut of it.
That is of the sports industry or the sports bettors that profit?
I think both. I think they want to get their cut of both sides. I'm not sure. I'll report back, but I know
I'm
that.
just curious because I mean those are two different things. If you want to take more money from the pockets of the people, I'm not as much a fan of that as I am of the big
Oh,
take.
I know it's the people's side because there's a sin tax. It's all wrapped in, so it's the marijuana and the betting is all part of this bill, known as the sin tax.
Not the SYNTAX, but the SIN.
I just
SIN.
thought the same thing. Syntax. Silly.
It's silly. So let's just go with this. What do we project next year will be? Another
I
about
mean, they're getting
20%
more
increase?
states more. They're getting a ton more states in it.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be more than 16 billion next year. That's my guess.
That's probably a good guess.
Yeah. 20% is basically adding like 8, 14, 15. Yeah, 16.
A beautiful mind at work, ladies and gentlemen. A beautiful mind at work. You heard it. You heard it live. You heard Alex's gears
I was
turning.
doing math.
You were taking 1/5, 20%.
Heard all the computing.
Alex,
Yeah, I think Draymond actually
you
does
may
that.
have been able to see some smoke out there. Alex, if you're really to figure out how to do 20% real quick, you ready?
Yeah,
What's 10% of 13.7
1.3,
times 2?
2.6.
Oh Lord.
2.74, buddy. 2.74. And for anybody that needs to know how to make 20% tips, you just got a free lesson. All right, moving away from the leadoff into some NFL news. An unidentified team has proposed a ban of the tush push.
Reportedly, it's the Packers.
Bullshit. It's probably Kansas City.
Sounds like sore losers.
This means that it could be voted on in the next league meetings by the owners as a potential legitimate ban. We've already heard some speculation to who the unidentified team
Like,
was.
what's the reasoning? I mean, other than the fact that it works.
Because we can't do it as good as they do it.
But, like, I get it. People will be like, oh, we need to ban that 'cause it's unsafe. Like, there's nothing wrong with the tush push. It just works, and people are pissed off that they can't do it.
I mean, I could make a case that there's some linemen that would say it's probably unsafe for them in the long haul.
Let's be honest, the linemen are not the ones coming out saying this.
I don't think Jason Kelsey was too excited that they did it as often as they did.
Yeah.
He came out afterwards and said that it was an absolute, just terrible, terrible play for his health. But
I don't really care. Like, if they get rid of it or they keep it. This is one of those that I'm indifferent on.
yeah, I think it's like 80, a little over 80% success rate on something in one, whether it's third or fourth and one, over the last, 3 or 4 years since they've been doing it. So, I mean, that's significantly higher rate than I would guess of all other NFL teams at third and fourth and one. So, figure out how to stop it, I guess. So we'll see where this goes. It may go nowhere, like a lot of these propositions probably end up all said and done. Another NFL news: the salary cap is anticipated to land in 2025 between $277.5 million and $281.5 million. Last year's cap in 2024 was $255.4 million. So there's going to be a little bit extra money out there for the teams to play with in the next year.
How come their salaries go up so high each year? Mine doesn't.
I forget what the calculation is. It's some I think they expect the salary cap to be like 50% of revenue. It's some calculation that they usually utilize to make that salary cap. So as long as the NFL continues to be better at generating revenue, the more the salary cap will continue to increase. So I would expect...
Well, I can't just push people down and shove things up people's butts.
You can't?
Yeah, I guess that's a... I'm not gonna. How that?
So by taking more things out of people's butts is going to make your salary go up, or is it just make your usage rate go up?
Why?
I'm just saying
Why are
maybe,
we
maybe
here?
revenue would go up. Like, more procedures, more money.
Can we...
Okay.
I'm
God.
with you, Jim.
I just wanted to see where Alex's mind was. Cowboys offensive lineman Zach Martin has retired, and he did so with more All-Pro selections than accepted holding penalties, and 9 All-Pros to 7 accepted holding penalties. Got to imagine this is not something that Dak Prescott was looking forward to.
No, and I deleted the note out there because I saw you moved it up. But of those holding penalties, none were in pass protection.
All in run.
All in the run game. It was like 6,000 plus snaps, 0 holding penalties in pass pro.
This is like one of those like Joe Thomas type of careers at this point.
Oh, he should be a Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Yeah. And just happened to be on the Cowboys at a time when they couldn't do much. So, we'll see what goes down here. But I do think that this does put. I mean, I think this was an expected move. I don't think I heard anybody saying, "Oh my God, this was not something. This was so surprising." I think there was a lot that figured this was going to go down. So we'll see. And lastly, in the NFL, the international games. The Chargers have been formally announced as the home team for this year's game in Brazil. The Harbaughs travel to Brazil.
Okay. Are we going to talk about like the combine, our mock draft? When do we start talking about that shit?
Did
You
you
can
put
talk
it?
about the
Did you put
combine,
it in the
Jim. Have
notes,
at
Jim?
I know it's not time, but when is the time?
The combine
when
is this week.
Yeah, most people aren't participating. I'm saying, when do we amp ourselves up for the draft? When do I have something to look forward to?
In what? Ever? Football? NFL? What?
The
The
NFL.
draft is what? Usually like late April?
Yeah, you've got a little over a month, Jim, for the draft.
All right, and where's the draft this year? Anybody know? No? Okay.
You're the one that's excited
I know
about
where
it.
it is next year.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to find some joy, because there's none right now.
There's no joy.
No,
We're
Muff,
having
it's-
joy.
We're enjoying
you
each
guys
other's
are-
company.
Yeah, I'm talking about sports.
Stuff.
With Jim and Muff.
In
you.
college football, Tennessee and Nebraska have canceled their upcoming matchups. I think there's matchups, which calls into question. I think this is not a new question, but I think it's going to continue to become an area for discussion. If there is any incentive to play tough games outside of your conference,
That would have to be a tough game. Like, I don't think that game in particular is an argument for a tough game.
It is for Nebraska.
Right. It's not worth it to Tennessee.
especially when they play in the SEC, I don't think they need that game on their schedule.
No.
They need Cupcake U to come in and win by 40 and move about their
Yeah.
day. Try to get some SEC wins. That's what's going to really make their schedule pop.
I mean, like, Ohio State plays Texas game 1.
Right.
Until Ohio State and Texas cancel the home and home, I'm not real worried about the conferences playing with each other. Like, let's worry about the bigger games that matter.
Alex, do we need to cancel WVU Pitt?
No,
No,
that matters.
that does matter. Carson Beck had his 2 cars stolen in Miami. Wasn't one of these his girlfriend's?
Hers was the third one.
Hers was the third
Yeah,
one.
both of his plus hers. And when I saw this article, I think it said they already recovered hers, but not his yet.
Crazy
Welcome
world.
to Miami.
Indeed. Welcome to Miami. I don't know. I saw this pop up, and I didn't know what to do with it, aside from just make note that maybe it was worth talking about. Carson Beck has 2 cars. He's got 2 nice cars.
Kevin Gates has 2 phones.
What?
Never mind, moving on.
What? Jim, does anything happen in Ohio land, college football wise? Do we have any news? Any
They've
discussion?
decided to call the spring game a spring showcase.
So they're not really going to play.
They are not going to play.
Losers.
They've, announced they're trying to get us hyped about the coordinators, and that fell to a dull roar. But remember, like, the high school state wrestling tournament is 2 weeks away. So, like, everything will go into wrestling focus here real quick. Then you'll have that quiet lull, and then you'll have the spring showcase. And then it's springtime. So you'll have some quietness here for a little bit.
So the spring showcase going to bring the same level of excitement?
I don't really know. I know that, like, the suite tickets, the AA tickets were like $35 a ticket, which seems reasonable. Maybe I'm off. I can't remember if Joe was sitting here; she'd tell me. But they're gonna get their money worth. Got to pay for NIL somehow
They got to pay to balance that budget.
because they broke.
I don't think they're broke. The athletics just do not bring in the revenue, Jim.
Yeah.
But talking about revenue, NIL, things in the NCAA, the state of West Virginia has introduced legislation prohibiting NCAA from investigating athletes for NIL activities. West Virginia is not the first state to introduce such legislation, but the most recent. Quoting from the bill, no institution, athletic association, athletic conference, or other organization with authority over intercollegiate athletics may open an investigation, penalize, suspend, take other adverse action, or declare a student athlete ineligible from intercollegiate athletic competition.
I don't have a problem with this. Like, not one bit.
So who can do it?
Why do they need to do it?
I guess if there's no rules.
I don't understand the need to punish the athlete for NIL. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. An institution for not policing it? Maybe, and that's like a far stretch.
Well, that's my
A
point. Like right now, there's no
donor,
rules.
right? A
So what are
donor,
you punishing someone for?
like cocaine. Hey, if you come to Ohio
Well,
State, you
that's
got
rough. You're not
4 years
punished
of
for
cocaine.
NIL. You're punished because you're doing illegal drugs.
Yeah, I don't know that was
No,
NIL related. That was recruitment related.
but like I guess like that, because you got to figure there's some kind of where like look, come to Colorado, we'll put your name, image, likeness on a dispensary.
Right. I think that's already a no-no.
Right, but there's a rule, right? And that we can't suspend you or punish you for that. There's got to be something. There's got to be something that stops you from doing that.
Well, some states do have some of that, and some institutions say that we're not going to give you NIL deals related to illegal or illicit activities. Right. So same thing like a strip club.
But does okay, and maybe I'm just like not thinking straight tonight. Does the school? The school doesn't provide necessarily the NIL deal, right?
For now, the
So
settlement that's
again,
coming up in profit sharing, we're going to get into this different world, right? This is that whole House versus NCAA that could establish a whole other level.
but Ohio State in Ohio, where it's legal, an athlete could put their name, image, likeness on a dispensary.
I don't know. Is that legal in the state, and is it by institution policy?
I don't know that the state has any laws on NIL. I'll have to look into it, but I don't know that there's anything on the books.
The institution may.
But if you pass a law saying you can't punish anyone for it, like take the West Virginia law, put it in Ohio, you can't do anything to that
That's
kid.
the NCAA can't.
You just told me no institution, athletic association, athletic conference. The institution is Ohio
This
State.
is West Virginia. Yeah, I understand. If you drop
If you
this in here,
brought it over to Ohio, that person can then be on a dispensary.
right? You can still punish them, but you can't make them ineligible. Like that was, I guess, suspend,
Take
take other
other
adverse.
adverse action. So if a player wanted to be the name, image, likeness of Jill's Gentlemen's Club in West Virginia,
A class act.
nobody could do anything.
I feel like there's got to be some guardrails in place in these states that don't have this in play,
I would
or
love to
else
know what the guardrail is.
we would have seen. Why haven't we seen it yet? That's what I'm getting into.
Well, I think West Virginia's taking the guardrails off. Right?
I'm looking at authority may open an investigation. Yeah, you could still institutionally say that they can't open an investigation, but an institution could. I think this is more other institutions. I think
I,
internally, if you have policies in place, you could say this isn't. We're not allowing this. That's not opening an investigation. That's just saying against our rules.
I think that's an
So like WWE
interpretation
could preemptively be
situation.
like, you are not allowed. We
Yeah.
don't believe in hamburgers, so you cannot have an NIL deal with hamburgers. Somebody goes out and does a deal with hamburgers anyway. They can be punished for that because that was a rule, but they can't open an investigation like, you know what, we thought about it and we think that maybe you shouldn't have done a deal with hamburgers. It's not in writing, but you shouldn't have done it. They can't do that. But if you hard in fact break a outright rule, you can still be punished for that.
What is it? What were they doing a deal with, Alex?
Hamburgers.
That's not how you said it the first 5 times. I loved it for it. It's not how you
I
said
don't
it.
know that that's.
Hamburger.
Hamburger.
I don't know that that's true.
I don't know what's true and not true anymore, Jim. Being really honest with NIL. But the House v. NCAA settlement is
Oh,
probably
look at that
going
last
to.
bullet, that third bullet point, though. The 5-page bill introduced this week would also allow institutions to provide NIL deal, prohibits athletes from engaging in specific NIL deals,
Yeah.
including alcohol, drugs, tobacco,
Right.
and
That's
gambling.
the state.
But not strippers.
Including, it doesn't say, but not limited to, so I'm not sure.
Or
if
OnlyFans.
if that's the case, then things are about to get really weird. Really, really weird in college athletics. That's where we're
But
going to get into.
in like to take this like another level, right? The WWE has their own collegiate NIL.
Mm-hmm.
The WWE prohibits their athletes once they come up from having an OnlyFans, but there's nothing that stops them during the NIL situation. I mean, I'm sure they say, "Hey, we'll give you NIL, just
It
don't participate." I'm
it
sure.
might be in their it might be in their
Yeah, right,
contract or whatever. You're expected to follow the same rules that an employee of our company would follow.
right.
Well, and this is also part of this House versus NCAA is that it's anticipated to open up the doors for student athletes to be employees, and that's where that profit sharing comes into play. So that's you can introduce all this legislation, but at some point, if they're considered employees, then you have a whole different standard that you're working with.
I still contend. My whole overall arching point that I'm going to say. How long have we had this fucking show?
The NCAA done screwed up.
Why are we still hammering this out? This is before it was Sports Stuff with Jim and Muff and the homies. The homies were just like spot guests. Why are we still like? We just thought of strippers just now and OnlyFans. These guys should have seen this coming.
Well, the problem is whatever the product becomes greater than the body that oversees it. Right? The conferences are more powerful than NCAA right now.
I just remember sitting in my apartment, looking at my computer, talking to you, going, "These guys got to get a hold of this." And they didn't, and they passed the buck, and they passed the buck, and here we sit, same dog and pony show.
Well, and then they pass it off to legislative bodies, which have been historically great at getting a handle on abuse, misuse.
Yeah, and they cycle out every. Wait, they don't cycle out. Never mind. Carry on.
Some of them do.
Yeah,
Some
when
of
they
them
die.
do. It's a cycle. It's a circle of life. All right. Anything else in the college football world?
No, sadly.
Sadly, no. We are in that dead time. We didn't talk about other interesting news in sports.
Other interesting, Jim.
You were doing it, buddy. I was letting
I
you
like
go.
to be melodious with you in the background.
Interesting news in sports.
In a week that hockey reigns supreme, there was one other story that we haven't talked about yet. I don't know if it deserves the leadoff spot, but Steve Smith got himself into a bit of a pickle.
Pun intended.
Are we aware of what Steve Smith got into?
I did see a little bit.
Steve Smith apparently was involved with some relations with a married woman, and said married woman's husband took it upon himself to call Steve Smith and then blasted out in social media exactly what had happened. I'm not going to sit here and get all the details, but let's just say Steve Smith may have a bit of a situation on his hands because I believe he is married with multiple children. And if all of this is true, there may be two people looking for love.
Well, they found each other, right?
They most certainly did, in some, not going to say unique ways, but they definitely were willing to express their love.
More than
Yeah. Was it more than once?
It seems to me that this was not the first, Jim.
The horizontal boogie.
A lot of boogieing going on. But other things in Columbus land, Jim, the Columbus Blue Jackets are hosting the Winter Classic at Ohio Stadium.
Yeah.
How excited is Columbus to be hosting the Winter Classic?
I think it's your average excitement. You know?
Average hockey excitement?
Yeah. The Blue Jackets are doing okay. So, there's the average excitement.
We excited to see the speed up of 10 times whenever they make the ice happen.
I think they actually have the ice out there right now, or at
It's
least
ready to
have
go.
laid down stuff. I think they're working on it.
Who do the Jackets play in this one? Anybody know?
Detroit.
I was going to say, I think it was the Red Wings.
Detroit. All right. We gonna get a win, Jim?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Hockey, and that's hockey talk with Jim.
Penn State men's
I'm
hockey
not
team beat
watching.
#1 Michigan State in a shootout last weekend. Apparently, Penn State has learned how to beat very good teams, but since they're not ranked, I would imagine they're losing to some other teams because they beat Ohio State when they were ranked, they beat #1 Michigan State, and yet Penn State is still not ranked. So apparently they lose to everyone else except for some of these top teams.
It's like WVU basketball.
That was
You
about
know
to be
what?
my exact statement.
That's about right. It's about right. In the basketball world, Victor Wembanyama is expected to miss the remainder of the season with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. I got a little bit of a medical explanation of this last Friday from Alex, so I'd like Alex to share with the world what this means and maybe some speculation as to why it is having this great of an impact.
So, deep vein thrombosis is a blood clot in your vein, and I was just telling Muff, I don't know enough details about the situation, but it strikes me as if he's getting a DVT in his shoulder, he possibly has some kind of underlying medical condition that they're working up. And if they're going to miss the playoffs anyway, and it's only his first year, maybe we take him out of the game and figure out how to best handle his health going forward. DVTs are important because they can break off and go bad places and cause blood clots in bad places like your brain or your lungs. So it's important not to have clots in your vessels. And
Clots in your vessels.
it is. And yeah, so he's kind of a young guy. They need to figure out why he had it. Was there an inciting incident, and then what to do about it from there. So my guess is more of a medical step away and deal with yourself than he physically can't play basketball.
All right.
That's my speculation based on limited information.
Alex, do we think there's anything to do with the fact that he, like Jim, has cheated within the past week in games?
I'm just saying it didn't help his case.
All right. So cheaters get DVT. Jim, if you need any,
Jesus.
if you need anything, then there you go.
Think Steve
There you go.
Smith's got DVT?
Maybe he and that woman. That's DVT.
Oh, she
got-
got the deep vein
They got
thrombosis.
they got some type of acronyms. Oh, another news in the NBA related to the Spurs. The end of an era in coaching may be near, as Spurs head coach Greg Popovich is not expected to return to the team this season, and his future is uncertain as he recovers from a mild stroke that he suffered in November.
How did we miss this in November? I get
no,
college football.
We talked about it. It was, at that point, it was unsure of what was going to be going on, and I think we just lost sight that this has continued to be the case.
But it's also like somebody else is out. A star player is also out with like a bigger injury.
Are you talking about Victor Wembanyama with DVT?
Is that? I mean, it's basketball.
He plays for the Spurs.
Gotcha. Thanks. So like the whole team's pretty much in shambles, right?
Yeah, something must be in the water in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Nothing good. Nothing good. In the baseball world, University of Maryland Eastern Shore ends their nation-leading 55-game losing streak dating back to May of 2023.
Good job, guys.
At that point, like, do you just want to leave no doubt and get to as many games as you can losing, or do you want to win?
I want to know, how the hell do you recruit?
That is a good question. I don't know. Apparently, they didn't know how.
Situated.
Yeah, this was a culture of losing, Nate.
Yeah, they weren't getting top recruits, clearly.
I mean, at least you're known for. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it's just like how we think in the NFL. Like when you're like 2-14, how do you get up for a game? If I'm on that team, I'm like, how do I get up for a practice or anything if I've lost 55 in a row?
I wonder how many head coaches they've gone through.
How many athletes they've gone through?
I don't think people. I mean,
Many
I
bottles
think
of liquor
people get
they've
into the
gone through.
people get in the portal to go to them. I don't think their players are getting into the portal to go other places.
No.
So maybe this is just like where it's just the garbage pit of baseball. Everybody
What,
that can't
what
get anywhere else goes there.
what would you say is worse, losing 55 in a row or bringing the team that lets them break their streak?
Ooh. Uh, what's worse?
What would be worse
Losing,
for you, losing that many in a row?
losing 55 in a row. I mean, in baseball, let's be real. Everybody can get lucky here and there. Like even the worst teams in baseball still win in the major leagues like 50, 60, 70 games.
Unless you're the White Sox.
Right. But, they didn't lose 55 in a row.
Right.
So, yeah, nobody's going to remember who the team that they beat was, but you're going to remember the 55 losses in a row.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think about it.
Jim,
How do
is
you
that
still
how
have a
Buckeye
program?
fans feel about losing to Michigan?
50. No.
Is that what it feels like?
No.
Would you be
I'm
okay
not.
losing 55 non-Michigan games in a row?
And I beat Michigan every year?
And let's say it's 5 years around of beating Michigan and you've lost every other game.
Well, that's not 55 games, though, Muff.
Over 5 years it would be.
But
Other
I
than
beat.
Michigan, you lose every other game for 5 years.
No. No.
No, we found the line,
No.
guys. We have found the
5
line.
years. 5 years would be rough.
I think 2 years Jim was okay with, but five is the limit.
5's a lot. 5's a lot.
I'm proud of you for having boundaries.
Yeah, that's too much.
We finally figured it out. Is 5 the number or is 4 okay?
I would say 4's okay because you're going through a whole class.
Okay.
5 would be like, all right, you've had your fun, coach. Time for you to go. Let's get our do-over now.
And then if that
Yeah.
coach came in and turned around in 1 year, won national championship, but lost to Michigan,
Not okay.
right? This is
Not okay.
You can't win. There's no win for the coaches at Ohio State.
Yeah, there is. Beat Michigan, win a national championship. That is the win. That's the win. I don't understand, Muff.
There's 2 games you have to win
I
all
mean, they're
season.
not asking much.
Well, at this point, you got to win more than just 2, Nate, because you got to get through the playoff.
Right, but those are the 2 games that are must wins.
Yes.
Well, you have to win every game leading up to the national championship now.
Right.
Must win.
Okay. 5, we figured it out. 5 is it. In other baseball
yeah.
news, ESPN and Major League Baseball are no longer going to be national television partners after this season. They mutually agreed to opt out of the final 3 years of their deal, per a letter obtained by The Athletic. ESPN PR posted on X, Twitter, "We are grateful for our long-standing relationship with Major League Baseball and how proud of ESPN's coverage Super Service fans. In making this decision, we applied the same discipline and fiscal responsibility that has built ESPN's industry-leading live events portfolio as we continue to grow our audience across linear, digital, and social platforms. As we have been throughout the process, we remain open to exploring new ways to serve MLB fans across our platforms beyond 2025. Is this ESPN cutting bait because baseball's not bringing it anymore for them?
I don't know. I mean, they just picked up hockey this year. I don't think hockey's like gonna make the money because there's not as many games. I
Yeah,
mean,
Sunday Night
there's
Baseball.
like
Where's Sunday Night
no more
Baseball going
Sunday
to be
night.
now?
Yeah, no more Sunday night baseball. There's rumors that they're going to try to pick up more college games. But yeah, then like you're not going to have Chris Berman during the Derby. Like,
Well, they could still have that coverage. Right? It's still possible. I'm not saying they will, but they could still have that coverage.
yeah, I think they do Wednesday night baseball too.
Mm-hmm. This is an end of an era. Like, I remember growing up with Sunday night and Wednesday night baseball. And that being like something you looked forward to. ESPN, no longer the worldwide leader in sports.
True. The question is going to be who just picks up all these baseball games.
I feel like this is. I mean, MLB has their own network, correct?
Yes, they've had it for a while.
Right. So I think they're It's time for them to
Streaming.
partner. It's going to partner with one of the major streaming apps. I mean, I think Amazon Prime has already dabbled into this, haven't they? Like
I
they've
don't know.
done baseball games. I don't think it's many, but I think they
Uh,
have.
no, not Amazon. Apple has.
Apple. Okay. Yeah, there's going to be one of these major streaming, not streaming platforms that pick up some of these major MLB games. Um, yeah, I think that's what's going to go down. Netflix is good with what they've got in their catalog at the moment. I can see Amazon Prime picking this up as something to do outside of football season.
Do they try to pick it up more on a
Or like a
or like a bigger
Hulu.
package, or do you think they try to do what they do with the NFL, like have Thursday night football? Maybe Amazon does Sunday night baseball.
Yeah, I mean, they could spread it across multiple. Apple could do something. Amazon could do something. Netflix could have like the All Star
Hulu.
game and maybe some of the playoff matchups.
Mm-hmm. Is it still like even in uh, like the playoffs? It's kind of like college basketball too, where TBS and TNT will pick up some of these games.
Yeah, yeah, they could easily. I think TNT and TBS used to have all the Braves games.
Mm-hmm.
I think they still do to some degree. Yeah.
Maybe in that market, not nationally.
Right. So I mean that's definitely something. I mean it's these local market and these local deals have continued to, I think, be kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're not profitable. So I think the next step is to just start getting in all
Well,
these
and I'm
streaming
wondering
apps.
now too. I mean, Fox has always been big with baseball. I feel like, but
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if CBS is going to try to dabble in there a little bit, or if NBC is going to try to dabble in there.
That those are I mean NBC is for the playoffs, right? They're part of that.
No, the only playoff I can remember was ESPN, Fox, TNT, and TBS. I don't remember seeing NBC carry anything.
Okay. Yeah. I mean CBS has golf. They have a lot of the golf coverage as far
Right.
as major events. Not that this interferes because you could still do evening baseball games with golf.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know if these major networks are going to come into play. Fox can definitely play a bigger role. Um, CBA, I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. Anything else in the sports world? Alex, can we get an update on your coloring?
Yes. So I finished the rainbow today, and
Not a Roy G. Biv rainbow.
I'm working on the around the border now. Yeah, I had a conundrum earlier with the rainbow that I tried to do Roy G. Biv, but I only had 6 spaces. So, at the recommendation of Sam, I took indigo and violet and just decided to make purple.
There it is. This is the mind of Alex. We heard a beautiful mind at work when trying to crunch some numbers. We now see a beautiful mind at work with some of these drawing skills. Anything else going on in sports world, Jim? Anything else going on
No, buddy.
TikTok? We good? We still
No.
TikToking?
Not really. Not really. Now there's NASCAR. I can tell you, there's NASCAR's getting hot. Getting some social media buzz. Some YouTubers getting involved in some NASCAR. I'll have some more news on that for you next week. But again, there's nothing better than watching NASCAR with a 9 and 5-year-old and having them bet on cars. Nothing better, I'm telling you.
What's their philosophy on betting on cars? Are we betting on colors? Are we betting on numbers?
They pick the number. They pick the number they want before the race. I show them the car colors. I tell them the driver name. I don't think they really give a shit who the driver name is.
Right.
They look at the car and the number. They pick their number, and that's who they stick with for the race. And there's nothing better than watching them get pumped up in the last 20 laps and then watching their car wreck. It is great.
So if their cars would happen to wreck into each other, would this create an issue in the household?
Chaos. Their cars start bumping, especially this last race. Their cars start bumping. They bump my car. Oh, start yelling at each other. It's really the best thing I have going on Sundays. It's amazing.
You should have them run circles around the house in the order in which their car is. So not only is it fun for you to observe, they also get tired in the process.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Early bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah. But they also learn how to gamble, and that's fun too.
You can use that to teach them the flag system too. Caution.
Oh, yeah.
This is what caution means.
Good idea.
Green means go, and they can get super pissed whenever the race ends under a caution.
My
What do you
proud
mean we
moment.
didn't get to go fast and finish it out? We had to stop and wait, and we win just because this is where we was when it stopped.
My
Dad,
proud
you said it's
moment was
500 laps. They only did 400.
Tessa was asked at school for her weekend update. Every Monday they asked for the weekend update. Tessa said, "I watched the race," and the teacher said, "Well, who you root for?" And Tessa said, "I don't know, the 21 car." It's like, yeah,
Dad
babe,
bet on him for me.
yeah, proud of you.
21 car. Dad said if they win, we get ice cream. If they lose, we don't get Christmas.
But they're into it, and that's fun for me. So that's my sport. That's what I'm getting into right now.
All right. Anything else, Alex, Nate?
Nope.
We're less than a month away from arena football in the area.
In the Wheeling City and training camp. I've seen some of the socials of training camp happening. So we'll
Alex,
see.
we should have got you to try out.
Oh.
Would have been quite the segment.
We could have gone viral right there.
We could have gone viral if we got Alex to try out for the Wheeling Miners. Any of us, let's just be real, any of us try out for the Wheeling Miners, we probably go viral. And then we need to go viral to pay for the hospital bills that will ensue.
Yeah. Well, like if Muff had tried out and then we followed him and then gone to the hospital and there was Alex, it would have been perfect.
Yes.
You even need to
Him.
fill in for the mascot.
No, that I would have potential at.
We could get this full circle. Nate is officiating the game in which I play in. Jim, where do you feel it? Where do you fit into this?
The obnoxious fan screaming because it's about all I'm doing.
Jim is the fan in the corner that's had far too many alcoholic beverages and yelling for somebody to die.
Yep.
Kill him! I'm
Get
the one
him!
that is the recipient of said action, violent action, that leads to me going to the hospital, and Alex greets me as I arrive with my ankle up near my ear.
Yep.
This all checks out.
It's beautiful.
All right. And that ends this week's episode of Sports Stuff with Jim and Muff. As a reminder, at Sports Jim Muff on Instagram and Twitter, Sports Stuff with Jim and Muff on Facebook, on YouTube. Get all of those action verbs, not in a demonic way. What do we do with the bell?
We ding
Get
it.
the bell on.
Ding ding.
Ding ding. If you ding ding loud enough,
Not like Steve Smith.
Oh boy.
Alex's drawing will get its wings.
Yeah.
Does old buddy have wings? Does he
No.
just have-
He has long hair.
We'll give him a Red Bull.
That's true.
It will give him
He's got a
wings.
wedding ring on. He's married.
Up and away. And you can tell a friend. Make a friend.
Be
Be a friend.
friend.